Okay, so welcome to everybody to this episode of our Enlightened Monday Talks. And tonight we're honored to have David Shapiro to speak to us on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in various projects that have been conducted around the world on behalf of the organizations through which he is offering the program. David has a BA cum laude in chemistry, a master's degree in the science of creative intelligence, and has both run and co-authored pioneer scientific studies on transcendental meditation and PTSD in the Congo with war trauma victims, in South Africa with victims of social abuse, and based upon profound changes with TM and PTSD, he founded the PTSD Relief Now and Alliance for PTSD Recovery, both of which are nonprofit charities. He has supervised thousands of trauma and PTSD victims to learn TM in Armenia, the Middle East, Africa, and around the world. He is also a member of Maharishi's Purusha program for men interested in further development of higher states of consciousness since 1987. He was previously on the faculty at Maharishi International University in natural medicine and Ayurveda. He was a national ballot access manager for the Natural Law Party in the mid 1990s and has published many popular articles around the world on TM and PTSD. So, David, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction. So let's go to our slideshow now. And today we're going to be talking about transcendental meditation, bringing recovery around the world from PTSD using transcendental meditation. We're going to touch on three main areas. One is what is the cause and the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and then what is the scientific research on TM? How effective is TM at reducing PTSD? That's going to be pretty short because I heard that you've already had a presentation by Dr. Stanianides about this, so this is going to be a brief review. And the third part is going to be the majority of our presentation, TM products around the world, where we're making a big difference with every one of our projects. So the causes of traumatic stress.
David, you need to hit your share button.
Pardon me?
We can't see the slides.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry about that.
Just share. See?
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Thank you. Glad you told me.
It also is a little bit better when you're a little bit closer to your computer for the sound.
Okay.
It's a little clearer. Yeah, thank you. You don't have to
Good.
speak loudly, but just a little clearer when you're
Good. So anyway, just to review, this is our presentation on TM and PTSD and the three areas we're touching, which is the cause and symptoms of PTSD, scientific research, and TM projects making a difference around the world. The causes of PTSD or the causes of traumatic stress are simply major trauma, which is anything from terrorism, war, violence, sexual abuse, natural disasters. So, some people get traumatized by family relationships or by a car accident. Anything that's a major trauma for the individual can create PTSD. And PTSD is, the results of PTSD are standardized. They have certain symptoms that everyone gets with PTSD, which means they have the memories of the event, either during waking or sleeping or dreaming, come up over and over and over again of whatever those events were. One could be triggered by things in the environment to have those events. And as a result of that ongoing response, it's basically, this is a fight or flight response that's been locked on, so you can't turn it off. There's so much pressure, so much stress, the fight or flight response is locked on. And so with those ongoing horrible memories, one can start having avoidance of those type of events. One can have emotional numbness. One can have trouble sleeping. One can feel negatively about oneself or about other people. and that can spill over into activity with anger, destructive behavior, substance abuse, and other similar symptoms. So this is a chronic problem that can last years, or in many cases, it can last a lifetime unless it's resolved some way or the other. We found that many people have tried psychotherapy, but for veterans, there was a very extensive study that looked at all the high-level scientific research studies, peer-reviewed studies at a certain level, and they found that only 1 in 3 people who were in the military came out of PTSD using the most commonly used psychotherapy techniques, which are called prolonged exposure and cognitive behavior therapy. So that just means for us that there's a big need for something more. We use very standard testing. This is called the PCL5, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Checklist 5, which is used all around the world in many, many studies. And I think every one of our TM studies uses this along with other testing and psychologist evaluations. The good news is that with TM is at least as effective and probably much more effective than any other technique that's available in the world today. You can see the study of many different groups. The blue is veterans, the green is prisoners, the yellow is college students, and the red is Congolese refugees or war refugees. You can see that all these groups, the bar goes down. There's a decrease in symptoms below the level of, below what they call the, below this line here. You see, everyone can see that line? That's the line below which it's highly significant. There's a significant clinical reduction in PTSD. So every single study we've done has a clinically significant study, and some groups have very, very, very major reduction in PTSD. So TM is really a new gold standard for reducing PTSD. When we compare it with many other approaches, you can see, again, here's the TM is the blue, the blue bar going more reduction than every other approach, which is red and green. And here comparing mindfulness, which is extremely often used, you can see that the drop in PTSD with mindfulness is this level. All the TM studies have a greater drop than the greatest study with mindfulness. So it's more to be relied upon than any other standard psychological approach or even alternative approach that's being used. So let's start with country by country. We'll start with the United States. This is from a war veteran whose name is Luke Jensen. He says, in 2009, I got deployed in Afghanistan. It was hard for me to ever wind down or get some sleep or get some rest. First week I was there, 3 soldiers got killed. I thought, I'm not going to make it home. I started thinking about suicide. When I got back to the United States, my problems continued. I tried individual counseling. I tried group counseling. I tried 5 or 6 types of depression medicine. When I learned TM for the first time, and I don't know how much long it was, I felt hope. I had tried so many things that had not worked for me. This is the first thing to get suicide off my mind. TM is about giving you a better quality of life and to feel better in every aspect of what you're doing. So this is the common experience all across the world, not suicide, but whatever the symptoms are that are dominating, they go down. This is a lady, a wife of a police officer. She just reports for him that after Mike learned TM, I felt there was hope. He had been in a very, very bad situation. This is Scott Lewis, who I interviewed. I did a 2-hour interview with him, an amazing man who basically dedicated his whole life to saving people from fires. And in many cases, he was an emergency medical technician. He would try to help people, in dire situations. But after years of trauma, he started getting symptoms of severe PTSD. He said, before TM, I do whatever I could to stay awake the entire night. These are the horrible memories and dreams. The day I learned TM, I went home and actually slept the entire night. So he had beautiful, beautiful transformation back to a normal life after TM. This is a lady who had sexual abuse, who was diagnosed with PTSD. She's a business lady in California, I believe. She said, for me, being somebody with PTSD, I was on fight or flight mode 24/7. Any bit of pressure was going to make me shut down and run. When I started TM, I didn't feel that pressure for the first time. This is a wonderful lady who was, she had a lot of abuse in her family life, and she was sentenced to prison for some wrong actions. But it's the abuse at home that led her to all those problems. She said, when I entered prison, I got into fights. I was always smart-mouthing people. They thought that drugging me would be the answer. None of that worked. Doing transcendental meditation changed me from the inside out instead of the outside in. When I meditate, I feel at peace. Here's another prisoner who all these people had severe abuse as children, and they did horrible things. In this case, this man actually killed someone. He said, TM allows you to change people at such a deep level so they are aligned perfectly with who they should be, emotionally, humanly, and physically. So this is Kevin Roper, who had a lot of abuse as a child. In Armenia, we're going to first hear from Gayane Zargaryan, who has a beautiful story of she reached out to the entire nation, every single level, and tried to inspire many, many people to learn TM. So we have a little technical challenges in this call. So when I go to some of the videos and the audios, I'm going to need to stop the sharing briefly, go to the actual audio and play it. So you may get a blank screen during the audios, and you're going to see the YouTube videos, but for the audios, you'll have a blank screen. So just be patient, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gayane, a full-time TM teacher from Armenia. Today, I want to talk about the development of the TM movement in Armenia, adding to it my personal story on how I became a TM governor. My journey in the movement started in 1989, when Maharishi sent teams of TM governors from Great Britain and the USA to teach in Armenia. Back then, half of my country was in ruins after the devastating earthquake of 1988. In addition, this earthquake killed 25,000 people. In addition to this devastation, the country was at war with neighboring Azerbaijan. I have seen the 1% effect. The British and American teams taught 30,000 people in 1 year. It was just 1% of the 3 million population that lived in the country. After I learned and practiced TM for a year, I became a Sita. The main reason for me to learn and practice TM and the TM City program was the idea of the world peace. In 2020, the second war broke out between Armenia and Azerbaijan, with all the horrible consequences that wars bring. 10,000 young lives lost, land lost, refugees, suffering, and stress. In 2021, we had 2 guest governors from the United States. American Armenian Greg Monogyan from Barrington, New Jersey, and Michael Williams from Las Vegas. I translated for Michael. And it was then that, under his influence and seeing his dedication, I decided it is time for me to realize my dream and become a team teacher, which I did and successfully finished the TTC in Thailand in 2022. When Greg was in Armenia, we contacted the central and regional governments, had meetings with many governmental officials who opened doors for the 4 team teachers. We had only 4 team teachers back then in Armenia. Opened doors for us to teach all over the country. After Michael left, Greg left, and then Michael left, we had 2 more guest teachers from the United States, Randy McKenzie from Summit, New Jersey, and David Price from Columbus City, Oregon. Randy was my mentor when I returned from Thailand. His mentorship was very subtle, yet very powerful, and contributed to my growth as a teacher. In my turn, I became a mentor to a young Armenian lady who graduated the TTC a year after me. When I mentioned the American governors who came to help us, I do that not only to appreciate their efforts and their work, but also to say that they brought new culture. Cultural exchange is also important. They brought fresh air, new light into the movement. Appreciations go to David Shapiro, the director of the Association for PTSD Recovery, whose active fundraising efforts made it possible to prepare 7 new team governors just in 2 years, many new citas, and also sent 24 people from Armenia to the 10K assembly in Hyderabad. We are unboundedly grateful to our Rajeshwari Maureen Wynn. She is a great model of leadership from the transcendental level, and how from that level, wisely, a leader can lead the country to new achievements and new heights. I want to mention one more name, that of Brian Levine. Brian is relatively new in our leadership, and yet immediately he won the trust and faith of all the Armenian teachers. There are many successes from my team governor career that I can recall. They bring joy to my heart, and some bring tears into my eyes. Here is one feedback from a war refugee, a 36-year-old lady from Karabakh, a physicist. This course on TEM brought me back to life. My family and 120,000 Armenians living in Karabakh lived in total blockade for 9 months. The blockade, heavy bombardment that I went through, it seemed to me I found myself in a whirlpool where I was dying because of the war and deportation. But this course helped me get out of this whirlpool. I was reborn. One more feedback from a male refugee, an opera singer. I learned him when it was a period of great uncertainty in my life. The loss of motherland and deportation had such an impact on me that I lost faith and meaning in life. I was constantly in conflicts both at home and in my workplace. After this team course, I started feeling better. The conflicts vanished. I do not get tired, and I feel peaceful and relaxed. I have stepped on a new path, and it will help me overcome my traumas. There are many other names whom we feel grateful that I didn't mention in this short text, and many, many other people whose names I don't even know, who contributed to establishing peace and work tirelessly with great effort to bring peace and stability into Armenia, to help Armenians become prosperous and be happy as a nation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Jai Gurudev.
Now, could everyone hear that okay? Very good. So that was beautiful. Gayane, one of the great heroes of Armenia, who's done so much to help bring her nation out of trauma. So let's, yeah.
Is Gayane on the phone call?
No, she's not. It was way too early for her.
Because someone's on.
Pardon me?
Someone's on. Looks like her name.
Oh, well, maybe she is.
Yeah, take a look in a list of
Well,
participants. Gayane, can you speak up?
are you there, Gayane? Maybe she just wants to be quiet. So that's well, she can speak
Yes.
with
Here she is. Okay. Oh, we can't hear.
So I'll just read another couple experiences. I mean, she's given you two very important, all the experiences we have, many of them are just like this. Here's a war veteran. His name is Grigor. He says, psychologically, it was very difficult for me, and it was hard managing my anger. My sleep was very erratic, and I had repetitive nightmares, feeling as if someone was choking me. I was very emotional back then and more aggressive in my relationships because of the trauma. Since learning TM, I am more peaceful and relaxed. I can reflect on life events and have insight into things that will happen in a more harmonious way. I'm not reacting as I did before, and I haven't had a nightmare in the 2 months since I learned TM. So this is another one, Narek. I am Narek, 20-year-old veteran. I fought my war in September of 2022 when the Azerbaijanis attacked several posts in Armenia, including my post in Vardenis. After that, I had acute shock. My whole nervous system seemed to be distorted. TM helped me get rid of the torturing memories, and I have a feeling of inner peace. So this is what's happening all over. This is what's happening in Armenia. We won't need to, it's just on and on and on with so many people having that experience. Very simple experience from this lady who was a refugee from Artsakh, where 120,000 people were expelled. I came to learn TM to be rid of the stress and tension I had gathered in Artsakh. TM has improved my sleep and I feel calmer. I'm glad to join the regular group meditations. Oh, this is quite important. This is Dr. Ani Kalajian is a world renowned psychologist who's an award-winning psychologist from Colombia, who has an organization that helps trauma victims in 50 countries around the world. She learned TM. This is what she said. The first thing I noticed was that the heart-wrenching pain I felt was minimized or decreased by at least 70%. That's after she learned TM. That gave us the emotional space to be present, to be empathic, and to engage with people. I'm thinking that if the next mission we organize goes to Palestine or Haiti, we would call on the Alliance for PTSD Recovery to designate a TM teacher to come with us. So she's already gone to Uganda, and she's helping out Palestine. She's reaching out with us around the world to bring her contacts and the trauma victims to be invited to learn TM. This, by the way, is Greg Minokian, who was one of the TM teachers who taught in Armenia in 1989 and 90, who Gayane discussed. This is what he had to say about teaching in 1989 and 90 after the horrendous earthquake that killed, I think, 20,000 people. I often speak of those extraordinary experiences teaching in Gyumri after the earthquake, the children whose stutters vanished immediately after their first meditation, or the man who spoke for the first time since Sungate in the middle of personal instruction. However, the real miracle that I was privileged to witness as a conduit for this truly perfect knowledge was to see the light come back in the eyes of those who had felt to be condemned to defeat and despair. Their peaceful smiles and wobbly steps back towards the joyful life are the precious gems which continue to fill my heart. So this is from many angles what was happening in Armenia, just one country, what happened in just one country. So let's quickly see a video that we made called Ending the War Within, which was done by an award-winning documentary producer and director, Tigran Narcissian. Nope, that's the wrong one, sorry.
Meditation
Is in a mental health crisis. I think Armenia is in a mental health crisis in which the war trauma and the fear of war is dominating the awareness of many or most Armenians.
Transcendental meditation is a simple, easy, effortless procedure that you do for 20 minutes twice a day. And what happens is the brain becomes coherent between left and right and the front and the rear hemispheres, so you think more coherently. The level of rest is 2 to 3 times deeper than sleep. So deep levels of rest get rid of deep-rooted stress and trauma, and because of that, you sleep less, you feel better, you're more self-directed, and that's what TM does in a nutshell. It just makes you happier, more productive, more energy.
Transcendental meditation is a technique that's been taught around the world to over 10 million people in every country, regardless of lifestyle, religion. Is extremely effective at reducing post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, insomnia, and other mental challenges that can go along with war.
I've just returned from 6 months in Armenia teaching the Transcendental Meditation technique to over 400 people. And I had the great fortune of teaching veterans with PTSD and refugees and children of refugees, taught a few doctors, dozens of psychologists and counselors, and just everyday people in Armenia, this simple, effortless technique. As a woman came to me with her 10-year-old and she could not speak. And she, from the moment she heard that her father had been killed in the war, she stopped speaking. And it'd been like about 15 months she had not spoken. And so I taught her TM, the mother and some of her friends. And on the second day of the class, we're having a group meditation. And all of a sudden, I heard someone crying a little bit. And then eventually crying out loud, not too loud, but just crying. And I knew it was her. And I go, yes, she's already making noises. Whatever stress was there, just after 4 or 5 meditations, is now gone. And so she started crying. And then she got up, hugged her mother. She goes, I can speak, I can speak. And she hugged me. And then she hugged her other friends in the room. And then she says, let's finish meditating. I go, okay. So we just sat down and we finished meditating for 10 minutes. And she's been speaking ever since. I was just thrilled for her and her mom.
Ստրեսները, երեխեքի ստրեսները, որ ամեն իրիկուն իրենք սկսում են, չգիտեմ, ամեն ինչ շարժը, ամեն մի բանը բախել էլի։ Երեխաները ահավոր ստրեսի մեջ էին, ես էլ դե շատ ստրեսի մեջ էի, սա Ղարաբաղում էլ ահավոր, որ ստրեսում են ապրում, ամեն օր չգիտեն, պատկերացրեք պահարինում օրերը շորերը չեն քանում, երևի եզակի դեպքերում, որ շորերը են պարկում, սամուղ շորը ստրեսի մեջ, չգիտենք հելնենք, ես պահին ինչ կլինի, ոնց կլինի, վախենում ենք, չգիտեմ, անընդհատ այդ վախը մեր մեջ, որտեղ էդին ենք տեսել եք, այն որ ոչ այդ պահին, որ սկսվեց այդ սնարյադները, այդ բաները, արդեն չգիտենք, տրիվոգաները, երեխեքը գոռում են, մեկը լացում է, մեկը վիրավոր է, տանկերը քաղաքում ինչ գնում են, սամալյոտները, չգիտեմ, ահավորերը, դեպի անբացատրելի, սա ստրեսի մեջ են, չգիտենք, հիմա էլ ապրում են դեղ Ղարաբաղում, բայց բոլորը ոնց որ զոմբի, ոնց որ սենց ասեմ, ստրես մեջներին անընդհատ իրենք լարված, անընդհատ վախը սրտներին, որ էսա կարող ցանկացած ժամանակ մի հատ ճանապարհ ապակեն, էլ ոչ մեկ չի կարա, ոչ մի տեղ շարժի, ոչ մի տեղ գնա։ Այն որ ասում թե բախտը բերումով, թե ճակատագրական, իմ ու Մայքլը հանդիպել, տեղի ունեցավ, չգիտեմ, այնքան ասում են գնա, որովհետև շատ ահավոր վիճակում են։ Ես եւ երեխաները ու իրոք ամեն մեկս էլ մեր ձևով, մեր վրա զգացել ենք հետևություն, զգացել ենք ստրեսից ազատում, մտածելակերպի փոփոխում, իրոք լավատեսություն, այդ ոնց ասեմ, նեգատիվը մեր մեջ իրոք էդի զգում եմ, որ բաներ կա, որ ավելի բաներ ենք, ամեն ինչը մեր վրա սենց նստում էր, մտածում էինք, կպնում էր, կպչուն սենց կպած էր, բայց մեդիտացիայից հետո զգացի ահագին, այսինքն այլ աչքերով ես նայում աշխարհի.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, called PTSD, is a mental health challenge, a debilitating mental health challenge that can last a person an entire lifetime. There are soldiers from Vietnam, American soldiers from Vietnam, who still have PTSD 50, 60 years later, because what it does is it transforms the brain functioning into a permanent fight or flight response. So without some proper support, the person is locked into fight or flight response with all the negative connotations of that it could be a few years, it could be a lifetime.
Within just a couple of weeks, I got to teach this veteran who had been in the hospital for almost a year and a half with like 18 different surgeries and pins and rods in his legs and arms, completely paralyzed on the right side of his body. And after all this time, he goes, I don't know if I want to stick around. He's having all these thoughts of suicide and stuff. And he was a friend of my translator. So otherwise we'd have never known this guy. So I said, yes, let's teach him. I went to the hospital to teach him. And in his first session, the mind settled down and body settled down so deep that he could actually close his eyes all the way. He has never closed his eyes since that drone attack on his truck, which had killed 26 men. He was one of 2 left alive. And he couldn't close his eyes because of the neurological damage. After meditating 3 minutes, he could actually close his eyes for the first time and not let light come in. So after that, then he started sleeping better, and eventually the suicidal thoughts went away, and he's doing really well now. Still in a wheelchair, but no more thoughts of killing himself. Because TM produces your inner happiness as well. It's not just about mental potential. That inner happiness, your inner bliss starts to bubble up month by month when you practice TM.
Անքնություն կար, շատ ուշ կենտրոնանալ, լարվել, ամեն ինչին նայել մի քիչ ջղային տեսակետից, իսկ հետո փորձելուց հետո արդեն ես հասկացա, որ չէ, նայում եմ հարցերին ու ավելի հանգիստ, հետո ես կարացա քնեմ գիշերները, թեմի առավելություններից կասեմ եմ, որ ստապ ռեալ դատում ես, ստապ ես մտածում, այն որ այն հարցը, որ մտածում ես, որ կարող է այսի չլինի կամ դժվար լինի, բայց հետո այնքան քեզ ստիպում ասես, ինչի հենց դժվար ու ասես, հետո այդ դժվարը հեշտ աշկերով նայես ու կատարես էդի, իսկ ինձ թվում է ամենալավ լավը որ ուշադրությունը տեղն առնում զգոն ես ելնում ու դատում ես կարես ցանկացած հարցի մասին մտածել ու այդ հարցի լուծումը գտնել առավելությունը ես դրան կտամ որ ոչ թե ինչ որ մի դժվարությունից չղայնանաս ու խուսափես ինչ որ չստացված բանի համար այլ դատես ավելի լավ.
There's a very large body of research on transcendental meditation and different areas of physical and mental health. So the ability of transcendental meditation to reduce one's level of anxiety, perceived stress, other mental health factors has been going on and is very consistent over the past 30, 40 years. In terms of trusting, it's not like taking some medicine you have to trust that side effects are going to be worth the medicine. Unfortunately, that's a fairly typical situation. It's something that is very pleasant to do. It's relaxing. It allows the entire mind and body to settle down to a very deep state of relaxation. It settles the mind from a very active state to a state of lesser excitation. Ultimately, one experiences a unique and very blissful, pleasant level of well-being where basically one is in bliss.
Կյանքում շո մինոր էտապ, մինոր փուլ է սկսվել։ Եվ դա առանց թաքցնելու բացատրեցի թե ինչ է կոչվելու Transcendental Meditation. Օր, 2-3 օր հետո այնքան ուժեղ փոփոխություններ նկատվեց, որ աշխատանքի վայրում ես գործ ունեմ հիմնականում տեսողության խնդիրներ ունեցող անձանց հետ։ Ինքս նույնպես տեսողության խնդիրներ ունեմ եւ բոլորը զարմացած Գերյուրական շախմատի դասընթացներ սովորող երեխաներ։ Գերյուրից ինչ հրաշալի բան է քո մոտ կատարվում։ Աշխատագիծներս, պարոն Ավետիսյանս, ինչ փոփոխություններ է քո մոտ։ Դրագանի առումով ավելի է բարիացել։ Հետո մի բան էլ մտածեցի։ Վերջիվերջո ինչ որ չափով հոգս են, չէ՞ մենք։ Տեսողության խնդիրներ ունենք, խավն է, պետական կարիքները զգում, մարդու կարիքցական, չասեմ կարիքցական, մարդու վերաբերմունք, ուշադրություն։ Մտածեցի, որ այս մեդիտացիաների շնորհիվ կարելի է ոչ թե լինել աշխարհի հոգսը, այլ օգնել, որ մեղմանա աշխարհի հոգսը։ Մենք կարող ենք մեղմել աշխարհի հոգսը։
Նախ ես զգացի, որ ինչ որ տարբեր ֆիզիոլոգիական, այսինքն տարբեր խնդիրներ, հոգեբանականի մասին չեմ ուզում խոսել, բայց ֆիզիոլոգիական տարբեր խնդիրներ, այո, չի կարողանում քնել, բերանում չորություն։ Ախտորոշվելուց հետո հասկացանք, որ այս ամեն ինչից հետո արդեն շաքար կա, շաքարի արկայություն է, ինչը լուրջ բավականին։ Այսինքն ինչն էր հիմնական խնդիրը, երբ որ դու չես կարողանում ինչ-որ բան անես։ Ճիշտ է, այդ ընթացքում ինչ-որ բաներ ձեռնարկվեց, ինչ-որ բաներ, բայց դու չես կարողանում հստակ կենտրոնանալ, հա։ Դու գիտես, որ որոշում ես պիտի անես, վերջ, դա քո անելիքն է։ Ու չես կարողանում կենտրոնանալ։ Թիեմ օգնեց, որ մի փոքր ես կարողացա ուղղակի ռելաքս, թուլանալ, մի փոքր թուլանալ։ Թիեմի կիրառելուց հետո փորձում ենք ավելի վերլուծական եւ ամենակարևորը պատճառահետևանքային այդ բոլոր կապերը հաշվի առնել։ Թե դա ոնց է անդրադառնում արդեն քո հոգեկանի այդ ամեն ինչի քեզ վրա, այդ արդեն խնդրի ուրիշ կողմն է, բայց այդ պատճառահետևանքային կապը, այդ միասնական կապը փորձեցինք գտնել։ Հետաքրքիր մի զգացողություն եղավ այսօր հենց TM-ի ժամանակ, որ հենց պատերազմի հետևանքով ձեռք բերած հաշմանդամություն ունեցող մարդկանց անպայման սովորեցնել TM ու այս լինի առաջնային ծրագրերից մեկը։
Եթե մենք ուզում ենք ինչ-որ հոգեվիճակի ձեր ասածի պես որակ ապահովենք, ավելի լավ կլինի, որ ավելի շատ մարդիկ սովորեն, որտեղ դա TM-ը ոչ թե TM-ի ազդեցությունը ոչ միայն կումուլատիվ է անհատի համար, այլև կումուլատիվ է հասարակության համար, եթե շատ մարդիկ են անում TM եւ իրենց հոգեվիճակը բարելավում է, ապա բարելավում է ամբողջ համայնքի եւ հանրության հոգեվիճակը։ Ու դրա համար իհարկե իսկ շատ ուսուցիչներ ունենալու համար դե պարզ է, որ շատ միջոցներ են հարկավոր եւ մենք ամեն ձևով դիմում ենք տարբեր կազմակերպությունների, դիմել ենք նույնիսկ մեր կառավարությանը ժամանակին ու նրանցից ստացել ենք միայն կանաչ լույս սովորեցնելու, բայց որտեղից որ գա, դա իհարկե մի ամբողջ պրոյեկտ է, որը ունի իրեն ֆինանսական մասը եւ այդ ֆինանսական մասը անպայման դրա հոգը պիտի տարվի, որպեսզի հնարավոր դառնա ՏՄ-ի ավելի լայն ուսուցումը Հայաստան։
I just wanted to give a special thank you to my Rotary Club International, which I belong to. Because of them, I was able to stay not 1 month, but 6 months. They helped support me there, take care of my lodging, my food, my translator. Thank you so much.
What we have now is an evidence-based approach that's extremely rapid and extremely effective, that's published in 14 studies. Top peer-reviewed studies show every single study that it's rapid and effective, and it's effortless, and it doesn't require the person with PTSD to face or grapple with the trauma. Many people really don't, especially young children. It's very hard on them to deal with their trauma. TM, it's absolutely no trauma-facing program. It's the opposite. You settle down with TM to more quieter and quieter and more peaceful levels of one's own awareness until one's gets completely silent and peaceful inside. And the stress released from that brings a person back to normal functioning.
Ցանկանում եմ, որ այս պրոյեկտը մեծ հաջողություն ունենա, որովհետև նմանատիպ պրոյեկտ արդեն շատ հաջողակ եղել է Հայաստանում։ Մենք արդեն դրա փորձ ունենք, մենք գիտենք, թեև տարիների ընթացքում այդ ամեն ինչը այսպես ասենք, հնացել է, գնացել է, մարդիկ տեղաշարժ է տեղի ունեցել, անընդհատ լինում է բնակչության տեղաշարժ, բայց մենք գիտենք, որ եթե շատ մարդ սովորի դեմ եւ հատկապես եթե իրենք խմբովի դա կատարեն, դա մեծ հեղաշրջում կառաջացնի եւ ոչ միայն ես կասեի հասարակության մեջ, հասարակության գիտակցության մեջ, այլև ամբողջ ռեգիոնում։
So we'll go back to the slideshow if we can. I think we've got the slideshow again. So basically, this type of experience is found everywhere around the world that we go to. We're going to war zones, we're going to areas where there's a lot of violence and poverty in society, and this type of rapid improvement is found everywhere. The same thing is this is Palestine, where this is just one quote. For the first time in almost 6 months, I was able to sleep all night. Even my mother, who is sick and in pain all the time, seemed quieter. Another professor a university professor, he has helped me a lot during these difficult times. We're not good, although all of us are trying hard to be good and normal. It's so hard. But still doing my TM program helped me a lot to keep going and focused. This is really the great challenges in Palestine. The TM program supports people all over the world. We're not political. We're not religious. We support. If the politicians do things that are wrong, it's not our concern. We just go in and reduce stress wherever there is people have PTSD. So we go into Palestine, we're teaching in Israel. This is one Israeli whose friends were killed in the Hamas attack of October 7th. After attending the funerals of my Netiv Hassara friends murdered on October 7th because of depression, I became depressed and wondered if I would ever feel peace again. After practicing the TM technique, my enthusiasm, optimism, and energy are back. I feel peace and joy. So this is a member of that community who was having, her own huge challenges after an attack on her community. One more person from Israel. I came to the hotel as a refugee with tension and stress, disrupting my everyday life. I got into arguments about trivial things, and with TM, suddenly I felt okay, more at peace, less critical and judgmental. I felt a sense of satisfaction that life is beginning to fall into place in a new chapter. The calm, tranquility, and focus it brings are definitely worth it. In South Africa, we have an institute with, I was just told by the director, 2,500 meditators, and they all learn the cities when they become juniors and sophomores, juniors, and seniors, or even earlier if they want. So this is some of the girls having a good time. Let's listen to a couple of the girls at Marsh Institute talk a little bit about how TM helped.
Hi, my name is Ritumet Maraba from Mahari. Hi, my name is Ritumet Maraba from Mahari Institute in South Africa. I started MIA at 20.
Can you hear her and see her? Okay, good. She's a little soft, but she's a sweet girl.
In 2022. TM has changed my life. Since I've started meditating, it has changed my life in a good way, in a really good way. I've been in a traumatic situation whereby I wasn't even in communication with my biological mother. Things were not really going good. We were clashing each and every day. We were just cold water and oil. But then, since I've meditated, I think things have come around. I can be able to communicate with her well. Now we are good. We are in good terms, because way before I was even introduced to meditation, we used to fight, we used to clash, we were not united. So since I've meditated, since I'm now doing the advanced technique of meditation, I'm able to handle her in a good way. If we start clashing, I can calm down, I can relax, I can speak to her in a good manner, whereby we bond, we are united, and we are able to solve our problems. So the advanced technique of meditation and meditating twice a day, every day, it helps a lot in traumatic situation, because if it wasn't for it, I don't think I'll be right here at this moment.
So let's listen to one other Marsh Institute student.
My name is Msa from Maharishi Institute, a third-year student here. So when I came in here, I came from an environment of entrepreneurship where there were many
Can you
challenges.
hear?
A lot of things were happening, and we had just come out of COVID-19 lockdowns where we lost some of our closest people, even some of our business associates, which caused a lot of downward trajectory for us for our operationals, because now we didn't know who we're gonna work with and so on going forward. So now coming in here for me was really helpful in that sense, because I came in a place that not only gave me education, which is what I needed, especially when it comes to business, but it also taught me about self-awareness, gave me time to sit and be aware of who I am, and obviously through the meditational techniques that we are given here in this place. So since those times, I have seen a lot of improvement when it comes to confidence, talking to people, and so on. And so it's really been an amazing journey for me coming out of that. So I'm really looking forward to a bright future. So thank you so much.
So you heard a little bit, and then so at the Maharshi we did a study in 2013 or 2014 at Maharshi Institute, published a little bit later, but it basically showed, we compared the TM program, which is blue, with another university that had PTSD, high levels of PTSD symptoms, and who also were tested for, both groups were tested for PTSD. And you can see the TM group, this is baseline before they learn TM, 15 days, 60 days, and 105 days, the level of symptoms are going down. With the non-TM group, it stayed about the same, very high throughout the whole study. And this is common. Without some help, people they still have PTSD, but with TM, it goes down rapidly, and in many cases, that people no longer have PTSD. In Congo, this will be the last group we'll go into, because there are so many different, all around the world, we're finding these results. But in the Congo, there's a huge success. About 2.5 years ago, I believe in the fall of 2021, in the war zone in Eastern Congo, 3 TM teachers, one of them was in the Congolese refugee study that we did, that we published in 2014, became a TM teacher. They've taught, 3 of the TM teachers taught 17,000 Congolese TM. That's 70 groups of schools, churches, internally displaced people, widows, single mothers who meditate in groups. 70 groups around that region learn TM. And they also open a TM center. Here are just two people telling their experiences. When I lost my daughter, it was as if I had lost the will to live. I was tired all the time and could not even walk across the room. Now with TM, I am full of energy, I am strong, and I walk 10 miles to and from my field crops every day. There's another young man who's in the war zone. When you live in a war zone, you can get woken up in the morning with a crackling sound of bullets, stress, headaches, and trauma. That is everyday life here. TM has helped me psychologically, and I no longer have headaches. So this is, this is the experience with the same thing in Uganda with the Congolese war refugees. They had the similar experiences. So I think let's at this point, I think we've gone over a lot of different experiences, and people can see how TM's helping. Why don't we open this up to questions and answers now?
David, I want to thank you for this incredibly inspiring and beautiful presentation, and all the time and effort you've put into creating it, and all the great work that you and your team have done over the years. I just think our group is tremendously inspired by this. And so feel free, folks, to ask any questions. Now's your chance to talk to the expert and find out any more details that you want to know.
Actually, we've got 3 experts, at least 3 experts here. Dr. Ian Glickman has helped 10,000 veterans come out of PTSD. He's an expert in this. I've run programs with probably 10,000 people around the world with TM. And then Brian Levine has run programs all over the world. So, but I'm glad to start answering questions. And if there's some question I can't answer, maybe Dr. Glickman or Brian can answer. Do you have any questions?
And first, David, could you stop your screen share? That way we can see everybody.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. There we go.
That's great. This is our group, about 15 people, and let's have the questions.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, I can keep going and speaking, but I think everyone got the point. Everyone understands that it's a huge transformation, often in 30 days. We even did a study that showed in 10 days, there was a huge drop in symptoms of PTSD, even in 10 days. So every TM teacher sees a big reduction in the first meditation. So feel free to ask questions, anyone, if you have them, or comments.
Or if Dr. Glickman has comments he'd like to share.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Welcome to hear those too.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, that was a wonderful presentation, David, as all David's presentations are, I must say. Yeah, I was at the VA hospital for about 10 years here in Iowa City, and I've seen about 10,000 PTSD cases, 80 every month. And it is without TM, is without question, if you look at it clinically and not kind of politically, the best solution, without question. I've been trained in prolonged exposure, and to me, I hate it. It would be reintroducing the trauma over and over again. I would, even though I'm trained in that, I've never used it and I never will. EMDR is another technique. I don't know if the people are familiar with the eye movement. I was actually trained in that by the person who invented it, Francine Shapiro, and it is pretty good, but there's nothing like transcendental meditation. And every patient, not every patient, but many, I saw 80 patients a month. About 50 of those patients, roughly, 30 to 60, let's say, you would get a little introductory lecture at the end, and they would make sure they wrote down tm.org. And many of them started. In my area at the Iowa City VA went from out by Chicago up to Minnesota, down to Missouri. It was a very big area, so I didn't know where people were, how they followed up. But the people who were local here in the Iowa City Center, the teacher would call me and say, I saw one of your vets and he's doing great. And they are doing great. And some vets that I saw, by the way, always were different, who practice TM. They practice TM, and if they stop practicing, and this isn't standard protocol at the VA, but I would check them right in my office and do the checking. And but their symptoms were different. At first I said, I can't get can't get my head around this guy. He clearly has PTSD, but something doesn't make any sense. And at the end, I talked about TM. He said, "Oh yeah, my officer made me learn TM when I was in, Afghanistan or something." And very different results are very quick. PTSD is a disorder of fear. It affects your amygdala, which is responsible for fight or flight. It actually gets enlarged, and TM will reduce that, actually shrink it in size. So that's my little opening remark. I'll answer any questions if anyone has any.
I have a question. Are there still ongoing studies being done in this area?
Actually, there's a study being done on Israelis in Israel. We would be glad to do a study in Palestine, but turns out Israel, the people are flocking to learn TM right now. So we're doing a study there. Our organization, Alliance for PTSD Recovery, tries to do studies everywhere. Sometimes the governors are so overloaded with work that they can't balance testing people and teaching TM. So, but whenever possible, we'd like to do the testing. because that shows both the people, it shows the governments, it shows the world what the changes have been. So we try to do ongoing studies. Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any other questions from folks, or anyone who knows anyone with PTSD who learned TM and had a good result? It's always good to share those as well.
I can talk about a guy that we taught here in Bozeman. He was in the Marines, and he had, it was like 15 years. I think it was 15 years he had PTSD and was on, like, 8 medications, and tried drinking it away, and then he learned TM, and like every week, maybe a couple times a week, he called the teacher, and well, first of all, he learned TM, and then he's like, I'm not going to take any medication, and he quit all the medication. And then he, like, a couple times a week, would call the teacher and tell him like how awful he was doing, and just that he wasn't doing well. But then at the 2-month mark, he called the teacher and said he experienced something, and he didn't know what it was, and then he realized it was joy, and he hadn't had that for 15 years. And then he just started, like, everything just started healing from that point.
I would just like to comment. Thank you so much for telling that story. It's the one thing that's probably much safer when people have these drugs they're taking for PTSD is to continue them.
Yeah, he was like, no way.
Yeah, okay, well, people people have their own minds. It's very complicated. But the ideal is that they would work with a doctor and gradually cut back until they're not using it anymore. But everyone has their own mind and their own tendencies, so it's very complicated. But we're glad that he came out of it with TM. Regular practice twice a day will do that. Will really help. Beautiful story. Anyone else?
Roberta put in the chat box that she has no questions, but she's just blown away by how many lives you've touched and changed, and gave them back, and changed their lives, gave them back to their families. So I think we're all impressed by the personal stories that you've shared, David. It's quite amazing to hear, and how quickly results come. That's unbelievable that it just takes a few days.
Let me tell you an interesting story, since you brought that up about personal stories. This is my personal story. I was asked in 2011 to run a PTSD study on Congolese war refugees in Uganda. And so basically, I didn't even know what PTSD was. I barely knew where Uganda was. And so we contacted the national director, and he found 60 people with very high levels of symptoms of PTSD. We did that standard test. They were right at the top on all the 20 symptoms. There were 17 symptoms at the time. Now it's 20. They're almost right at the top. The severity on every single one of the symptoms. They were in really, really bad shape. So we set up a team of scientists. We divided them into 2 groups, as you're supposed to do. One group randomly. So one group was going to learn TM. The other group was going to learn after the study was over. So then we taught the TM group TM, and then we tested them, both groups, before anyone learned TM. 30 days later, we tested them again. And at the 30-day mark, there was no change in the non-TM group. They had the same high level of symptoms, or maybe the symptoms went up a little bit. The TM group, every single person was out of PTSD. Every single one.
It's very quick.
So when I saw that, I said, now we have the solution to PTSD through TM. And now nature has told me, now I've got to form an organization to use this to focus on the hundreds of millions of people around the world with PTSD. So because, we've got so many things that TM does, it helps in every area of life. but still there are a few things that TM is really, really better than everything else in terms of physical or mental conditions. And of all the things it's best at, I believe personally, PTSD is the pinnacle of its success, because it can last a lifetime, and in a few weeks, a few days even, it can go away. So that was my personal story of an absolute transformation when I realized that we had the solution to PTSD. So that's I just wanted to share that with you. And we published 2 studies in the top journals, Journal of Traumatic Stress, and then we started the organization and it started moving from there. Yeah, it's a huge, huge thing that TM can do. But what's also very important is that there's something called post-traumatic growth, which means after you have the trauma, how can you grow? So TM, first it gets rid of the PTSD, and then because TM helps all areas of life, the next thing that happens is people started growing. They start reaching out. They start having better relationships. They work better at work. The Congolese War refugees who hadn't been able to work, they were now thinking how they can make money and how they can earn a living. So it's not like anything else where you might get a good success reducing PTSD, but how are you going to help all areas of life? So it's absolutely the gold standard for PTSD care.
That's why.
I had a question. So, do you think that the PTSD goes down faster because they're meditating in a group for a long period of time,
definitely,
as opposed to just on their own?
Yes, definitely, because Marshy said that after he told us actually in one of the big assemblies that the 10,000 course in 1984 in Taste of Utopia, there was a big group practicing the TM City program, Fairfield, Iowa. He said that this isn't word for word, but basically he said when you're in a larger group, the group helps you reduce stress in your nervous system. The group itself kind of expels some of that individual stress. You get more of the collective strength from the group. So it's definitely a tool to get better more quickly, is to meditate in the group regularly. It's a very important point. No matter what the situation is, whether it's getting rid of problems or just growing faster with TM, both ways. Yeah, it's a very beautiful point.
Even if you don't have PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever the situation, yeah.
And also, it's probably worth noting that TM teachers are specially trained to teach people who have PTSD. There are regular training sessions that all of us who have been through are offered through our national organization, because as David will well know, there are special considerations in teaching, particularly war veterans and others who have suffered from extreme PTSD. And so that's part of the training to be a TM teacher for those types of cases. And so, if you have people who you want to refer that you might know, it's good to be aware that particular training is available.
Beautiful.
And also, I'll just share quickly one personal story since you asked. I taught someone last year who came to me, and I wasn't familiar with the specifics of her case, but she shared it with me after learning TM, and she had suffered PTSD for quite a number of years. She's actually was living here in Wyoming in another city from where I am at the moment. And it was a case where somebody in her neighborhood who had been a close friend basically became senile in their later years, and one day came out of their house armed to the teeth and started shooting at everything in the street, including their own house. He shot through the front door of her house and her windows, and they had to hit the floor, et cetera, et cetera. And it was extremely traumatic because this was someone they considered a close and dear friend up until that point. And so she had suffered from this for years. And when she came and I taught her and her husband to meditate, her husband is a teacher in the school here. Even on the second day of meditation, she said, after our group meditation, she said, I've been taking extremely high doses of blood pressure medicine for years. And even with those medications, it's very difficult for me to get my I think, the diastolic pressure below 200. And she said, the other day I meditated and then I immediately took my blood pressure and the upper value was 125. She said, I have not seen that value in
Beautiful.
years. So anyway,
Beautiful.
that's just an example of how effective it is.
Beautiful. All these stories are so heartwarming because you really see, what's happening with TM and the amazing potential. Beautiful story. Thanks for sharing.
Other questions folks have, comments, reactions?
Well, looking around the group, I see that there's, we all have something in common, which is we have a desire to help other people. And so, David, I think you're a good inspiration for us to, if you get an idea, follow through, and make it happen. Because there's so many problems in the world, and each one of us perhaps has a kind of a heartfelt connection with one group of people or another that we'd like to help. And you have shown the way that this is a huge difference you're making around the world. Have you tracked through your particular nonprofit's efforts how many total people have?
Well, it's a little bit complicated because I said we trained a number of TM teachers. One of them was from the Uganda study in 2011. She became a TM teacher, and then now she helped teach the 17,000 Congolese who are in the war zone in Eastern Congo. So maybe she taught 6,000 people, 7,000 people, who knows? So and then so it's really hard to say. There must be 10 or 15,000 people we've taught, and it's a start. We liked it. We know there are literally hundreds of millions of people with PTSD. So we're hoping that the time comes when large organizations will accept this and support this. We've approached some large organizations. Nothing's come yet, but we're still working on it. We hope that we can help large groups with PTSD so that we can not only reduce their trauma, but we know about the superradiance effect. Does everyone knows about this, the superradiance effect in the group here? Have you been telling them about it? They know about that? Superradiance?
Yeah, they know.
So then basically our real goal, our long-term goal is not only to reduce individual PTSD, but to help reduce war and violence and PTSD globally. So that would be our big goal, is to help form groups, even groups who had trauma, traumatic stress, and PTSD, and to help create world peace. So yeah, so it's hard to say how many, because teachers go out and they do many things. So probably 15,000, I guess. It's really hard to say how many people we've helped. They're teaching thousands of more every year in Congo, so my number will be changed. Next month it'll be different. But in Armenia, where they're teaching everywhere, they're teaching people with trauma, and it's helping them. It's literally bringing life back to people.
And David, I assume the limiting factor on all this is funding, right? So it's probably appropriate for you to at least identify if folks have funding sources or opportunities to help. How can they contribute in that way?
Right. So they can go to our website. Let me show you I'll share screen. You can copy this down if I can get here's our let's see. I'll go to the end. You can go to our website and you can either email us if you have a contact who wants to support trauma, some major source of some sort who may want to support trauma. They can email me at contact@aptsdr.org. Alliance for PTSD Recovery. Here it is. So basically, that's our website is Alliance for PTSD Recovery.org. aptsdr.org. That's our website. Or if you run across a contact that may want to either learn, if they want to learn TM in the United States, they just go to tm.org or contact the local TM center and they can be taught. And if they're in a really traumatized and they don't have money, there are often scholarships that can help them. If you have other contacts around the world, email me at contact@aptsdr.org. ptsdr.org, and I will be glad to, call the people and discuss possibilities for helping expand our programs around the world.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, David. I think everybody's blown away, not just Roberta. I think we're all blown away by the power of this and also what you've accomplished and your dedication to this task, which is, I think, one that many would shrink from, which is tackling such a deeply rooted stress in global consciousness. But clearly the results speak for themselves. And I think, there's nothing more inspiring than seeing a change from complete darkness to complete light in somebody's life. And that's what we heard over and over tonight. So thank you so much for sharing all this with us. There's been recorded, as you know, and so you'll have a chance to share this with others going forward.
Yes, on our Facebook page or our homepage on our website, we're going to post that somewhere on the website, so you can, if you want to see it or share it with friends, or you have some potential person with PTSD who can watch it, or someone who's a possible donor, large donor with some large organization, you can just share that link and they can watch the video or look at the research. Thanks so much, everyone. Really, thank you for joining me.